the GAZ-21 Volga is not just a passenger car model. It was a vehicle for the elite, an object of desire and aspiration. The Volga signified and emphasized status. It stood at the top of the structured Soviet automotive hierarchy. Volgas transported party officials of various ranks, factory directors, and collective farm chairmen. Volgas were awarded to distinguished cultural figures, athletes, and cosmonauts for their achievements. The Volga was also one of the most common official vehicles. It served in the police, in ambulance services, and in the fleets of most taxi companies. Volgas could also be intimidating, especially if they were black and pulled up to your building at night. Why were people afraid of black Volgas? We'll find out a bit later, but for now, let's dive into the history of this legendary Soviet car. And its origins go all the way back to the end, the 1940s, when it became clear that the first post-war Soviet car, the GAZ-M20 Pobeda, was outdated and needed significant modernization or even replacement. The first attempts to update the Pobeda were made in 1948 by engineers at the NAMI Automotive Institute. However, they were unable to breathe new life into the Pobeda. Only 2 prototypes were built, and further work on the car's development was discontinued. Work on creating a new mid-size passenger car resumed in 1951 when a program codenamed M21 Pobeda 2 was launched. The implementation of this project was carried out directly at the Gorky automobile plant by its own design bureau. Even at the design stage of the future car, 2 designer artists were brought into the project, the foreign specialist John Willems and the local expert Lev Yeremyev. Each of them presented their own sketch of a possible car design. Willems' work was codenamed Zvyazda, Star. It was a sedan with the typical optical aviation design of that era, featuring a fastback-style body where the car's roof smoothly transitioned into the trunk lid. Such a car did not really appeal to the officials from the automotive ministry. They considered this kind of design outdated and not very technologically advanced for production. The general body lines of the car in the sketch, especially its rear part, resembled the contours of the Pobeda, which they were actually trying to replace. That's why Yeremyev's design, which was more progressive and matched the global automotive trends of the time, won. The future car had to be not only modern, comfortable, and fast, but also sturdy enough to handle roads that were far from perfect. Soviet roads, especially in provincial towns. And overall, the Volga was supposed to have the most advanced design and the most modern look, to become a symbol and embodiment of the technological greatness of the entire Soviet automotive industry. All the requirements and wishes voiced in the high offices made the engineers uneasy. They finally realized the incredible weight and importance of the task that had fallen on their shoulders, a task whose success or failure would affect not only their reputation, or perhaps even their freedom, but also the prestige of the entire party in the motherland. That meant they had to act quickly and had no room for mistakes. That's why, immediately after the project was launched in Detroit, the center of the global auto industry, several modern cars were purchased there. Among them was the Ford mainline. This car became the main source of inspiration for the Soviet engineers. The first Volga prototype was built in 1954. Later, 2 more test vehicles were constructed. Each of them differed from one another in minor details and nuances. In May 1955, all 3 cars were sent on a test drive along the Moscow-Yalta route. Overall, the Volgas completed the distance satisfactorily and demonstrated better performance and fuel efficiency than the Pobeda models. And along the way, they even managed to overtake some foreign cars that were used on the route for comparison purposes. While there were no major complaints about the Volga's technical specifications, there were some criticisms regarding its design. And not just from anyone, but from Marshal Zhukov himself, who, at one of the party meetings concerning the development of the new Volga, directly addressed the designer Yeremyev. What kind of design is that on your car? Just look at the front end. What is this rabbit-toothed grin of bourgeois imperialism? At first, Yeremyev was taken aback by such pressure, but then he composed himself and said he understood everything, and that he would definitely make the necessary adjustments. And indeed, on the very first production Volgas that rolled off the GAZ factory assembly line in October 1956, instead of the radiator grille with vertical slits that vaguely resembled rabbit teeth, there was a new grille in the form of a massive horizontal bar, with a small ring in the center holding a 5-pointed star inside. In terms of its layout, the 21st Volga was a front-engine, rear-wheel drive, 4-door, 5-seater sedan of the mid-size class. It was built in the typical early 1950s style, with smooth lines, rounded headlights, and an exterior decorated with a lotto. The appearance of this car was truly a sensation for the Soviet auto industry at the time. The Volgas received advanced technical features that had never before been available on any mass-produced models. Suspended panels, independent front suspension, and a 3-speed automatic transmission. The Volga's equipment included such a novelty as a radio receiver. The car was designed in the traditional aero style of the 1950s. It had a special elegance. The Volgas were given an especially elegant look by the abundance of chrome elements on the exterior, and as the cherry on top. The cherry on the cake, which emphasized the car's exceptional prestige, was the GAZ factory emblem, made in the shape of a deer figurine mounted on the front edge of the hood. Overall, the Volgas were much better than the old Pobitas, both in terms of comfort, as well as in terms of driving performance. So it's no surprise that the first production cars immediately started arriving as official vehicles in the garages of motor pools serving communist officials of various ranks, from Moscow all the way down to regional and district party committees. As production of the Volga ramped up, it became available to a wider range of people: factory directors, honored figures in film and culture, successful scientists and engineers, and athletes. In the Soviet Union, the Volga gained the status of an elite car and was not available for general sale. Immediately after production, all cars were distributed according to strictly set quotas and sent to various state agencies and services. The Volga also became one of the elements of motivational rewards, which were reserved for significant achievements in various fields of activity. For example, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin was awarded a Volga after he became the first person. Ordinary residents of the USSR, despite how inaccessible this car was, could also enjoy a ride in a Volga. All you had to do was catch a taxi in one of the big cities, which, more often than not, would be a Volga. Because most of these cars ended up in the fleets of government agencies and taxis. The first mass-produced Volgas were equipped with a modernized side-valve engine from the Pobeda, with an increased displacement of 2.4 liters and a power output of 65 horsepower. But already in May 1957, the Volga received its own 4-cylinder overhead valve, all-aluminum GAZ-21 engine, with a displacement of 2.4 liters and a power output of 75 horsepower. Along with the new engine, the Volga was equipped with a new 3-speed automatic transmission. It was a copy of the American Ford-O-Matic automatic transmission, which Ford actively installed in its cars in the early 50s. It was precisely to study the design of automotive transmissions, which were little known to the Soviet auto industry at the time, that a Ford mainline car was purchased in the USA. Although GAZ did manage to set up production of automatic transmissions, their further use in mass-produced cars became practically impossible. The low standard of technical maintenance and the lack of proper service led to these units breaking down rather quickly. A flood of complaints poured into the Gorky plant. In the end, they abandoned the automatic transmission and continued to equip the cars with the standard 3-speed manual gearbox. In total, during the period from 1957 to 1958, according to various sources, between 700 and 3,000 Volgas with automatic transmissions were produced. Later on, similar units were offered as an option on export versions of the car. Another innovation in the design of the Volgas was the centralized chassis lubrication system, which consisted of a network of thin copper tubes that delivered oil to the necessary components. The pressure in this system was provided by a manual pump, which was operated by a pedal inside the car's cabin. During operation, significant drawbacks of this type of lubrication were discovered. The tubes, due to driving on rough roads, would often get twisted or simply break, which led to unpleasant situations. Sometimes, when the Volgas stopped, you could see greasy oil stains on the asphalt underneath them. Later on, the centralized lubrication system was abandoned and they went back to regular grease fittings. The curb weight of the Volga is 1,450 kilograms. The car's maximum speed is 130 kilometers per hour. Fuel consumption is 9 liters per 100 kilometers. In 1959, the second series of the Volga went into mass production, featuring a new radiator grille with 16 vertical slits. That same shark mouth that Marshal Zhukov disliked so much. The front bumper and the turn signal lights were also changed. And another feature that emphasized the Volga's status as a luxury car was the windshield washer. In 1962, the car was modernized again, this time more radically. These updated Volga models were given the provisional designation of the 3rd series. Numerically, these cars were the most widespread. They received a new exterior design and a modified radiator grille. Because of its 37 vertical bars, it was often called the whale mustache. Also, the Volga's front bumper lost its vertical fangs and was split horizontally into 2 parts. In addition, the deer hood ornament disappeared from the car, and the number of moldings was reduced. GAZ designers tried to give the 3rd series Volgas cleaner, straighter lines. The changes also affected the car's interior. The cabin received a slightly updated design and new upholstery materials. There were also some technical improvements. The engine power was increased. Versions with automatic transmissions were removed from the production lineup. The final minor update to the 21st Volga was carried out in 1965. The car received improved cabin heating and a slightly updated exterior design. The model designation also changed from GAZ-21 to simply GAZ-21. While the 1st and 2nd series of the 21st Volga were produced exclusively as sedans, starting in 1962, with the release of the 3rd series, the so-called whale mustache, the Gorky luxury car family was joined by a cargo passenger version in a station wagon body, which was designated as a separate model, the GAZ-22. This vehicle had reinforced rear leaf springs and a spacious cargo area, which was created by folding down the rear seats. When carrying 5 passengers, the station wagon's payload capacity was 176 kilograms, while with only 2 people on board, it increased to 400 kilograms. The station wagon was strictly a service vehicle and was not sold for personal use. Almost all of the vehicles produced were distributed among government agencies, taxi fleets, retail organizations, and the ambulance service. However, there were certain exceptions in the history of this model's production. There were times when station wagons were sold to private individuals. One such owner of the GAZ-22 was the talented Soviet actor and circus performer Yuri Nikolin, who was granted special permission to purchase this car for transporting bulky circus equipment. At the same time as the station wagon, in 1962, the Gorky automobile plant began producing a specialized modification of the Volga, the existence of which was kept secret right up until the collapse of the USSR. This was the GAZ-23 model. An escort vehicle, or as it was nicknamed in certain circles, the catch-up car. And why was it called that? It's actually very simple. At that time, it was the fastest production car in the USSR. And it's no wonder, because under the hood of this seemingly ordinary Volga was a V-shaped 8-cylinder ZMZ13 gasoline engine with a 5.5-liter displacement and 195 horsepower. This power unit was borrowed from the Soviet limousine Chaika. Along with the engine from this model, the GAZ-23 received a 3-speed automatic transmission. Due to the excessive load on the front wheels, the engineers had to reinforce the front suspension and the engine mounts. As a result of the work done, the Soviet Special Services, particularly the KGB, received a perfectly tuned car that gave no chance in speed to any other Soviet passenger cars of the time. This special Volga could accelerate to 100 km per hour in less than 14 seconds. Whereas a regular production car would reach that speed in 34 seconds, the maximum speed of this model was 160 km per hour. In order for these special vehicles to be indistinguishable from regular Volgas, the engineers carried out certain camouflage work. This car, like the Volga with a manual transmission, also had 3 pedals. However, instead of a clutch pedal, an extra brake pedal was installed, and the automatic transmission shifter was disguised as a regular manual gear lever. But whatever the case, these black special Volgas, such a color. According to the security services, they were inconspicuous and were true harbingers of trouble. There was even a superstition about them. Wherever a black Volga appeared, people would disappear. This mostly happened at night. So if any Soviet resident happened to pull back their curtain and saw a black Volga parked by the entrance, it was a serious reason to worry. Only 600 of these cars were ever produced. Some of them, after their service ended, were even used on the sets of many movies, especially in chase scenes. While the Volgas for the KGB were shrouded in secrecy, the regular 21st models were actively supplied to export markets. The Volga became the first Soviet car to be sold in Western countries. Overall, the car was exported to 75 countries around the world, including the capitalist states of Western Europe. Such popularization of the Volga in the West took place after it won the Grand Prix at the International Expo 58 exhibition in Brussels. Among the mass-produced modifications, there were also some very rare and unique Volga models. One of these cars was an all-wheel drive station wagon. It was kept in the garage of the General Secretary of the Central Committee of the CPSU, Leonid Brezhnev, and he used it for hunting. Such all-wheel drive station wagons were extremely rare modifications and were mainly built by special order using parts from more common models. At that time, Soviet off-road vehicles. Besides the USSR, the Volga GAZ-21 was also produced in small quantities in Belgium, as well as at the Beijing automobile plant in China. There, the Soviet model, with minor design changes, rolled off the assembly line under the name Donfanghong, which translates as Red East. Overall, this car played a significant role in establishing the entire Chinese automotive industry. The last Volga GAZ-21 rolled off the assembly line on July 15, 1970. In total, 638,845 cars of this model were produced over 14 years of production. As of today, the 21st Volga, once a symbol of prestige and a marker of status, has become part of Soviet retro classics, most often seen only in museums, at car exhibitions or festivals, as well as in the form of small collectible models.